Hi everyone, it's so great to see so many familiar and friendly faces. So thank you for joining today, we really appreciate it. We'll just introduce ourselves quickly and then we'll get into all the interesting, juicy stuff we've got to chat through with you today. So I'm Jenny from MC Saatchi Sport and Entertainment. Kate asked us to sort of give an overview of our career, just to kind of give you a background on where we've come from, what we're doing now. So just to give you an update, I'm a business director and I've been at MC for about 6 years now. I very much lead on the women's sports side of things in the business, and I'm very lucky to have brilliant clients like the Women's Euros working with Lucy in the team, which is a bit of a dream for me, if I'm honest. And I also work on a lot of other women's sport business, such as O2 and the Red Roses. I came from a PR background, Boots press office up in Nottingham, came back down to London, but actually discovered my passion through sports sponsorship at Synergy. I think there's probably a few old Synergy faces in here I can see, which is great to see. And then moved over to M&C, where now we're doing all sorts of work. And hopefully if anyone's in London this week, we've actually, a few weeks ago, we launched a women's sport exhibition at the Saatchi Gallery to in focus women's sport through the lens. So if you're around until Thursday, it's free, so do pop down and see it. It's a brilliant space and really engaging. I guess my why and why I'm in women's sport is it used to be a bit of a family joke story. So when I was a kid, I still am actually a massive Nottingham Forest fan. I had a season ticket, posters on my wall, and we had a careers day at school when I was about 11 or 12. And they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I love football, I love Forest, and it has to be something with Forest, but I had no role models. So there was no one on the pitch, there was no one off the pitch that I could relate to. And rather sadly, I said Stuart Pearce's wife, I mean, a great player, but you know, back in the day as a 12-year-old, that's the only role I could see. And I think my drive is I don't want any girl ever to feel that they don't have a role in sport and can make a difference in sport. So that's kind of, I guess, where I come from. And I pass over to the brilliant Lucy.
Oh, thanks, Jenny. I do love that story. Hi, everybody. I'm Lucy Roberts Hartley. It's an absolute privilege to be speaking to you today. Thank you so much for hosting us and for joining today. I have had the privilege of working in sports marketing, communications and commercial for the past 15 years, most notably in football, but other sports are thrown in there as well. For me, regardless of the role, the event, the sport, what's most important to me is the why and the purpose behind why we put so much into major events and making a real difference to people. Similar to Jenny, sport has played a major role in my life from a very young age, be that playing or supporting on the sidelines alongside my family. And I think, I'm sure you'll agree, but my work, your work, it needs to mean something and really make a difference to those of others, lives of others, be that big or small. And sport is an amazing vehicle for doing that. I'm sure you'll agree. I had an amazing opportunity to do this really on in my career, working for the FA as marketing lead for the FA Cup and competitions. So really working on that, the men's FA Cup globally, and the main part of that was repositioning it for youth audiences. So really fundamentally changing the way the FA Cup is communicated, which was a dream project for me as a lifelong football fan. Women's FA Cup as well, most notably bringing that game to Wembley, or the final to Wembley, was a really big achievement. And that was a real fundamental change for the way women's games are hosted in this country as well. And other properties like the FA People's Cup in partnership with the BBC, which was really trying to drive mass participation across all age groups, demographics and backgrounds to really get involved in football. Really successful program. That took me on to work as head of marketing for the Cricket World Cup in 2019. Couldn't resist a World Cup on home soil, so it attracted me away from my passion of football. And I was really interested in leading the marketing digital brand to deliver, I think what we're still saying is the world's most successful cricket event in terms of attendance, in terms of viewership. And I think 1 million children picked up a cricket bat and ball during the World Cup. So, really successful in terms of that, which brings me to my current role and what we're talking about today as marketing and communications lead for the Women's Euros 2022. I lead a very talented team of individuals overseeing the marketing, ticketing, digital, brand PR and communications for the tournament. And there are 71 days to go. So it's crunch time now, 10 weeks until that opening game, which we'll tell you all about. And just as well, notably from my side, I'm part of the UK Sport Event Leaders Programme, which is really pushing and inspiring me to be a leader of the future in major sporting events. So hopefully all that gives you a little bit of background, and we can talk about what we're here for today, and I can tell you all about the Women's Euros and what's to come over the next few months.
Cool, thanks, Lucy. So what we're going to take you guys through is Lucy's going to give you an overview about the Women's Euros. So sort of give you an overview on what we're looking at to achieve, what you can expect in the next few months. And then we'll just sort of take you on a bit of a whistle-stop tour on the marketing campaign today. So some of those key moments since we launched last summer. And then the most important bit, which we're really excited to share with you, is sort of some key learnings. And this is key learnings to date. We're finding we're learning something new every week at the moment, especially as our campaign evolves. We picked out 6 areas that we, really made a difference in how we market the Women's Euros and the success. And we're really excited to share those with you. Some might be surprising, some might not, but I think it's really great to have this space together to share and learn from one another. And actually, you'll see a lot of the learnings have evolved from previous events and tournaments that we're taking learnings from as well. So I will pass over to Lucy just to give you an overview of the Women's Euros this year.
It all starts with our vision, why we exist as a tournament, and it is about being record breaking. It's about uniting the game and communities to really grow the game and impact on it substantially and for the long term. Everything you'll see today, I really hope you agree, really stems from this vision, but ambition underpins everything we're seeking to achieve. It's about entertaining and inspiring the world, about showcasing the UK and us hosting another spectacular major event on home soil, but essentially creating the best possible platform to inject growth and inspire the masses to start playing football, drive it forward and inspire that positive change. What does the tournament look like in a nutshell? With 71 days to go, as I mentioned, to our opening game at Old Trafford, which hosts England against Austria at what we hope will be a packed out 70,000 crowd at Old Trafford cheering the team along. We have 31 matches across the month of July, across 10 venues and on our 9 brilliant host cities who are supporting us across the board to deliver this tournament, which will all culminate in a showcase final at Wembley, which again we hope will be packed out, and fingers crossed we might even have England there in the final, which would just be a dream. We've got over 700,000 tickets available, which is the most any Euros has ever had in terms of women's. BBC are our broadcast partners, so really excited and privileged to be working alongside them. They absolutely support our ambitions to take women's football forward. So really happy to be working alongside them. And part of the why and the purpose behind the tournament as well, why the FA bid for this tournament many years ago, was to be a catalyst for change and to really drive forward that equal access for girls to play football in schools, which is where it all begins for so many young girls and young players. The teams, so we have 16 teams. England were given automatic qualification as our hosts. We were delighted to see another home nation in Northern Ireland qualifying for the tournament. And of course, we'll await the decision on Russia's current suspension for the final lineup. This is our tournament schedule. If you can't read it, don't worry. I'm sure you'll find it online somewhere, but this is what our month of July looks like. So lots of brilliant matches up and down the country that will be broadcast all on the BBC, and we'll hopefully have lots of packed out venues and fans enjoying the experience. What does success look like? What are our objectives from a Marcom's perspective? Record breaking absolutely underpins everything we're looking to achieve. We really want to double TV audiences from 2017, double our digital audiences across social and data, but also double those attendances. That really forms an essential part of what we want to deliver for the Euros. Full stadia breeds amazing fan experience. It gives the platform for the athletes to perform at their very best. And it also translates to those global audiences as well. Full stadia really will help to enhance the value of women's football for this tournament and going forward. There's lots of records that we're looking to break, and our team are very ambitious. We do love to break a record, and we've already broken the one which is the biggest women's Euros in history. We've exceeded that objective already, so really proud to be in that position 10 weeks out from the start of the tournament. We want to get the nation excited. Oh, sorry, Jenny, just back one slide. Too quick for me. We want to get the nation excited, watching, playing, and really celebrate that summer of sport. We were postponed for a whole year, so there are many events this summer and beyond: Rugby League World Cup, Birmingham 2022, World Gymnastics, and we want to celebrate women's sport in particular across all of those different tournaments together. One of the jobs that we need to do as a Marcoms team is we need to grow attendances. So currently there are around 100,000 regular attendees of women's football. To break those objectives, to fill those stadios, 700,000 tickets, we need to grow that audience. And that's really what my team have been working on to do. And it's about engaging existing audiences, converting those that are warm, open to women's football, and attracting new ones as well to spark or reignite interest in women's football. And no matter how they engage with women, we want to give them the best possible experience to signpost, whether that's be in school, at home, on TV, across digital, or of course at one of our games. We want to inspire them to take their next step in women's football. And this idea of providing the best possible platform to create to inspire positive change. The Women's Euros is being used as a fast track, a showcase in the host cities to fast track the FA strategy for women's and girls football 2020 to 2024. And part of that is the equal access for girls in schools. But this platform is just fundamentally important to be that catalyst for change and growth. And I won't go through these objectives because this in a nutshell is everything that underpins the tournament. There's a 2-minute video that we'll flip to in just a second, but the one point I wanted to make is that probably in the past and for many tournaments prior to us, legacy has been a bolt-on, something that happens at the end of a tournament, and we hope to signpost, we hope to inspire. The Women's Euros legacy has been part of the host bid for the tournament, and it also underpins everything. We have a team working on legacy. The legacy opportunities are available now. We're already signposting thousands of girls and women to participation opportunities before the tournament even starts. And that will grow during tournament and after the tournament. Everybody's super excited and wants to start playing women's football. So without delay, I'll play the next couple of minutes film for you.
Could this be one now? It is!
No matter how many times I see that film, it still gives me goosebumps. So it definitely means we're all in it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our marketing campaign and where we've come and some of the plans still to come. But first, a little bit about our strategy. I mean, being record-breaking and that attendance has always been a really core objective from a marketing and communications perspective. So our ticketing strategy was really important alongside that marketing and communications roadmap. Our point one was really rewarding existing and loyal fans. Women's football has a really brilliant audience to tap into. We really wanted to offer them first opportunity to get involved in the tournament and buy tickets through a pre-sale. We then held a ballot. A ballot's really important from a major event perspective because it's synonymous with the biggest events in the world to really maximise awareness and target new fans. And then the plan was always to have a general sale in 2022 to target new fans, families and main eventers who are likely to switch on to a global tournament on home soil and buy a little bit later. Now, the plan was super flexible and agile, and this changed many times, mainly because of COVID, restrictions lifting, enhancing as we went along in terms of the roadmap. But it had to be adapted several times to really take advantage of the opportunities that were at hand. The first step was a pre-sale, so capitalising on the back of the men's Euros, semi-finals and finals held here in England. Not often we get back-to-back finals, so it's a real opportunity to talk about the women's Euros in the same light as the men's, which doesn't always happen. We gave existing fans the first access to tickets. This was, if I'm honest, this was an untested approach. Women's football, major events in this country had never really gone out on this scale to achieve these kind of objectives, knowing what the result would be. I love to be insight and database, and most of what we'll talk to you about today was, but this was a new approach for us. But we felt like we'd got confidence off the back of launching our ticketing and pricing strategy. It was received really positively around it being inclusive and accessible, and we were really testing the appetite for this tournament. For a 3-week pre-sale period, we were delighted to sell 136,000 tickets, which, you know, we were really surprised about, very happy about, very delighted. And probably one of the key learnings as well that we took forward was how we positioned it. The line that we used was one epic tournament, referring to the men's Euros, deserves another. So really seeing the men's and women's Euros at the same level and the same light, which gave us so much confidence in that platform to talk about what's coming the following summer. We then launched our creative campaign just ahead of the final draw in October and the ballot opening later in the year. For many years, I'd say probably women's football has been comparing itself to men's football. It's sometimes been apologetic in its approach, and women's football has grown and evolved now to a position where we no longer need to take this approach, especially France 2019, really seeing that moment of change in women's football. And our campaign comes from a place of confidence. Our tone of voice is proud, passionate, inspiring, powerful. It's not apologetic, it's really confident. And it positions the Women's Euros as a spectacle, a show, a platform to be stolen and run by the players and really experienced and enjoyed by the fans. Everyone's invited, and it's a festival celebration, and it's really elevating the Women's Euros to a platform with the biggest major events on the planet. And our line was "It's showtime," and it came to life across all our creative. And on the next slide, just show you a snapshot of how that was used flexibly and will be used flexibly, from talking to really football specific audiences about particular fixtures to women's football fans that want to see their hero players, to fans and families that are maybe coming to women's football for the very first time. And I'll just talk a little bit about our final draw. For UEFA and many organisations, we have tried and tested formats for draws. But I think as an LOS, local organising structure, really focusing on women's Euros and appealing to new fans, we saw an opportunity to do something really different, to bring together sport and entertainment, to make it a real national moment and to appeal to wider audiences. So it's more than just a draw, it's much, much more. We moved from what would traditionally be an auditorium with the players, coaches and officials in attendance to a warehouse in Manchester, Victoria Warehouse. We had live music performances from Ella Henderson and Ellie Goulding, both huge football fans and advocates of women's sport. We had VT content, unlike we've seen before, with rappers introducing our host cities and a really kind of get to know women's football introduction. We had a live guest audience that really represented the length and breadth of women's football in this country. And of course, men's and women's professional footballers take part in the draw. We also had a live media focused red carpet, which was really new and really brilliant undertaking. Something the BBC are really used to doing, things like sports personality and the content that can be captured and amplified is really spectacular. We took inspiration from that. And of course, we were working alongside the BBC, who broadcast it live at a peak time. I think it was around 5 o'clock in the evening. Produced a wraparound show with their amazing talents. And we achieved 1.8 million viewers, which was astronomically higher than any Women's Euro draw has ever achieved before. And it gave us the best possible kickoff to our ballot opening, which opened directly after the programme had finished.
We had our ballot was live and up and running, and we had 3 weeks to get ticket sales over the line. One insight we had from our data, we knew from previous ballots, that it's always at the end, the last minute panic when people suddenly realise we need to get on board and get our tickets. So we wanted to capitalise on this, because there's nothing like a bit of FOMO. And I think certainly coming out of COVID, everyone was really missing live events and everyone was desperate to plan something and do something with their friends. So we really capitalised on this moment by doing 2 things. Firstly, we enlisted a team of celebrity ambassadors to create a really short social asset, super simple, basically them calling to fans to don't miss out and to get your tickets. We had stars like Rio Ferdinand and Jermaine Jenas from men's football, but we also had a number of sports talent from all sorts of walks of life, including the brilliant Maggie Alfonsi, saying, you know, if you want to be part of a brilliant tournament, don't miss out, you've got 24 hours to go. And that sort of sense of emergency, that sort of like really rallying call really helped on social and really sort of drove more ticket sales for us. Accompanying that, we also wanted to do something that was a bit more traditional for press, because we know that looking at some of the regions where our events are taking place, the consumers there really appreciate regional press, and it's something where they go to consume their media and get their information. So we did a good old sort of picture story that created a really nice image that could go out to sort of remind everybody, you know, with the ballot's going to close in 24 hours, don't get your tickets. And we've got this lovely girls cricket club, football club rather, in Ilford. So you can see, if you squint, you can see the girls playing a live game on the pitch over our Don't Miss Out. So it was a really nice way to bring to life, you know, this is women's football, you've got 24 hours, so make sure you get those ballot tickets. And it just gave that sort of sense of urgency. So just really working those ebbs and flows. And that wraps our ballot and the first burst of ticket sales. The next moment, as Lucy mentioned, was general sale. And this was huge for us. So we knew women's football fans had been super engaged. We've seen brilliant pre-sale figures. Now we knew this was time to take it to the general public. We had 100 days out, so we had a really natural and relevant milestone. However, that's still 3 months after the tournament. And if any of your friends, like my friends, are terrible at planning and trying to engage people at this far out from an event to get them tickets can be challenging. We also wanted to make sure we created a relevant talking point to get everyone talking about it. We didn't want it to be a flash in the pan that people forget. Wanted to do something that would get women's football and the tournament on the radar of Joe Public, basically. So we came up with this idea of basically celebrating how much change this tournament's going to bring to the country. And we did that by taking something that's seen as an iconic male football cultural element, which is table football, which I'm sure there are lots of fans of here on the call, and transforming it into a women's game. So we took over iconic Carnaby Street in London, which is a really sort of known lifestyle space. It really connects to the Gen Z audience. You know, it's really taking us out of the football context into sort of general event and lifestyle space, and we constructed this giant table football table featuring the stars of the Women's Euros who are going to land in England this summer. It was a brilliantly fun stunt. It stayed up for 2 weeks. That was always a key part of our activation, to make sure it had some longevity so people could go down and engage with it themselves. And for the launch event itself, we had a really, really busy day that gave us like a multifaceted range of marketing assets. So we had a number of talent downs, so the likes of Rio Ferdinand, players from the current team like Millie Bright, and also supporters of women's football, people like Kirsty Gallagher and Elsa Witch as well. We had a range of activity from broadcast interviews, media interviews with our talent. Obviously the structure itself and building it was an interesting talking point. So I'll show you a video in the moment so you can see what went on the day. So it created great content output. And also we had a whole marketing campaign around this PR stunt as well. So the Women's Euros marketing team looked at creating digital assets, social engagement, so people could play a digital table football game online as well. So if you couldn't come down to the street yourself, you could still engage with the activation and win tickets to the Euros. And I think what this did for us was not only generate sort of mass media coverage in national media and consumer lifestyle titles, it also generally did take us to that new audience. When we looked at the results afterwards, 50% of ticket purchasers who purchased based off the general sale were new to us. They weren't women's football fans we were aware of. It was a brand new audience, and that for us was a mark of success, because that was who we were trying to go after sort of 100 days out of the tournament. We'll just play a super quick video to give you a taste of the day.
This is just absolutely brilliant to see the women there.
So it's something that when you walk through you can't miss.
Look, I come down Carnaby Street all the time and it's such a busy street and people are coming past it, they're going to take note, they're going to ask questions, they're going to want to know what it is.
It's going to be good, people are going to know that something happening here.
The tournament's going to be massive and I think everyone's just super excited for it.
This is just going to be like a moment in history, not just in London as well, that's the key point.
To have the first game at Old Trafford, I think that just sets the tone for the tournament.
We've already seen in pre-sale records have been broken.
Makes me goosebumpy really, it's huge.
Played the game for 19 years, so I've certainly been to many tournaments. This is going to be the most competitive. Any tickets that are on sale, go buy yourself one.
Hopefully some of you got down to Carnaby Street to see it in real life. Absolutely brilliant. But now I'm going to pass you back over to Lucy to introduce you to Hat-Trick, who are our tournament mascots. There they are, all looking very lively.
Thanks, Jenny. So this is hot off the press really. A couple of weeks ago, we launched our tournament mascots, a trio of primarily focused digital mascots called Ashley, Kai and Robin, and they are a team called Hat-Trick. Our ambitions really around our approach for the mascots were targeting 8 to 11-year-olds to engage with the Women's Euros and be inspired to play football by taking the mascots and this element of the tournament to where they are, so they can relate to them and they can emulate these mascots and also top players who we've used in the campaigns to promote them. 3 main routes to targeting our audience: schools. So we have 250,000 children in the UEFA School of Football programme, which is European wide. We've also got focused resources across the UK as well. YouTube, top viewing platform for 8 to 11s, and also Roblox, a partnership with the gaming platform, which is the top gaming platform for 8 to 11s across Europe as well. So really taking these mascots to the environment where this audience is, using our ambassadors, using challenges and digital challenges and physical challenges to get them to emulate these mascots, but also bring it into a physical remit and get them playing football as well. So I've taken you through the major moments and some learnings are still to come, but there's more to come in terms of our campaigns across the next 10 weeks. We've achieved a lot, but still so much more to come. Our general sale goes back live from the 12th of May, which is shortly followed by our 50-day to goes milestone. So watch this space, more to be shared, but we'll really work hard on a regional and national basis, as well as engaging with those international and travelling fans, of which we've seen a really good contingent, to continue to drive ticket sales, to continue to achieve those records and attendances that we are seeking to achieve. We will, of course, create lots of amazing digital content, challenges, competitions, and this is to engage new audiences, inspire new audiences, but also to really get existing audiences excited and make sure that they turn up to the tournament as well and get involved as much as possible. The third box, legacy-inspired content, and this really comes from us creating a sister brand to Women's Euros. So we were encountering challenges like many global tournaments, many global properties will do, in that UEFA's partners have the sole rights to talk about women's football and associate with the Women's Euro. But from a national perspective, there are so many programmes, partners that are working for the good of women's football that can't associate with a tournament. So to navigate this, and UEFA have permitted us to do this, is to create a sister brand called Inspired by England 2022, which focuses on legacy and grassroots and really enables all those programmes and partners to capitalise on what will be a game-changing moment in women's football and not miss that opportunity due to those commercial restrictions. We've got a roadmap across the next 10 weeks of major PR activity on a national basis, but also regional. We're working really hard where we've got those harder to sell fixtures and making sure we maximise those venues. We launched last week our Host City Roadshow, which will kick off in Sheffield on the 21st of May, and it will be delivered almost every weekend through to the 2nd of July. Now, this is a roadshow that at its essence is for people that aren't yet into women's football. It brings together, of course, football, but lifestyle, fashion, entertainment, the wider culture of football, and hopefully will provide a platform to inspire people on that regional level as we tour the country. We have a schools programme, which is completely free for all schools to access on a national basis, but we'll also be releasing lots of really great content resources for clubs and communities across the country, so everybody has the opportunity to be involved in the Euros, whether they can attend the game or they're at home or they're playing with their clubs. Watch this space for lots of activity in terms of legacy, culture and heritage. We really want to grow the women's game, but really paint a picture of what women's football is about, where it has been in its history, but also where it's going in the future. And these areas will really add that colour to what we're offering. And fan festivals, of course, we'll have more information available really soon, because yes, the football on the pitch will be absolutely elite and is a primary driver for attending the tournament, but what else is offering and what else is on offer will be really exciting from that fan perspective.
So we've taken you through sort of what's happened today, and then we just want to take you through the 6 things I think have really jumped out of us so far. We'll have to run this session again post Euros, because I feel like there's going to be another million learnings from this. So hopefully you'll find these useful. We'd love at the end when we get to questions to get your feedback. Are you finding the same across campaigns you're working on? And is there anything you agree or maybe disagree with as well?
So the first learning was our audience. We didn't have specific expectations about what the audience would be. We had some learnings from previous women's football, but nothing had been attempted on this scale in this country. So we've learned a lot about our audience, and we continue to on a daily basis. But women's football isn't for women, and that's really been one of the pivotal points of driving our ticket sales and our coverage. The demographic that we found is much more in line with a major event than women's football or even men's football. So really strong purchaser from a female demographic. They're tending to be relatively young. And we're seeing under 16s, which is our concession rate down there at 23%, really strong. So we're seeing lots of families coming. Purchases from 95 countries. So we are seeing some travelling fans, more than we expected, actually around about 14% of the whole makeup is from international markets. And we're seeing a really strong average purchaser rate as well in terms of tickets. So maybe they're not coming to one game, or they're coming with a group of fans. So really strong main event audience we've seen so far. And I won't take you through this whole slide, but probably just the one thing to call out in our audience. This is just prior to general sale and the opening of general sale. So we do expect this to change as the different audiences become involved and targeted by our campaigns. But if you look at that bottom left charts, which is age, we've uncovered 2 sweet spots really that were a little unexpected. The first is young females, early 20s, coming in pairs and groups. That's been a strong trend for us. And then that second peak is older men, so mid-40s, and they're tending to come with children. So the dad audience is bringing their families along, which is great to see. The second learning is we're attempting our very best to break the mould, and we are definitely doing that. With women's sport, it sometimes feel like we have permission to experiment or to be more flexible than perhaps the rigidity of more established or men's sport. And that bringing entertainment and sport together has been really important for us to galvanise those new audiences and grow the sport. We'll talk a little bit about the draw. UEFA were open to creating a modern live draw event in a warehouse setting, the red carpet, everything that I talked about earlier. But honestly, it wasn't easy. It wasn't an open door, and it probably took us around 12 months of, looking at what other sports had done, but making sure we had the insight, making sure we had the partners to give UEFA the confidence. We used lots of insight. We took them along on the journey with us. We had an excellent team as well. We worked with BBC Studios, who have produced shows at this scale on many occasions. But it took a lot of work. But I think, in the end, it was hugely worth it. And, the insight and the ambition behind it was absolutely spot on. I really hope UEFA never look back in terms of future draws.
The next insight is women's sport is purposeful, but it can also be fun. I don't know if anyone else finds this, but there can sometimes be that tension between sort of talking about equality and moving forward and purpose, and also the fact that women's sport is brilliantly entertaining, athletic, that, you know, the expertise there is incredible, and we're seeing really, really great sportsmanship, and it's trying to find that sweet spot. I think sometimes we can, as women's sport, we can quite hard on ourselves. You know, we can go in there and go really hard, you know, we're not achieving enough, we, you know, we do need to keep fighting the equality fight and raising awareness that, you know, there isn't, you know, across everything, that there isn't equality. We do need to be doing more, but also I think it needs to be balanced out with bringing the fun element and bringing to life the wonderful qualities of women's sport, all the reasons why we're getting bums on seats, all the reasons why we're getting people returning to WSL games week in, week out. And I think we found this, we hope we found this sweet spot with the general sale PR idea, where we, you know, there was a firm nod to the fact that we're looking towards the future and the changes tournament will deliver, and the fact we're looking to change the face of football. So taking the male figurines and turning them to female figurines, you know, this is the kind of change we're making, but doing it in a fun context, and then bringing in the ambassadors, bringing in the general public, and bringing in that buzz and excitement for the tournament. So yes, whilst we're going to be delivering, you know, we're striving towards equality and we will be delivering change, we're doing it in an entertaining, fun, engaging way, and hopefully putting a smile on people's face. And I think for that, we felt that was quite a sweet spot, and something that I think across marketing it can be, and I don't know what everyone else thinks, it can be quite a challenge in getting that tension right. The fourth learning is the commercial demand is there. Now, as Lucy said, that a lot of work went into the ticketing strategy, and it was announced before tickets went on sale, so we had an idea of the perception, and you know, the strategy was there was a lot of access, so we had a range of ticket options, whether you're a family and you could go 10 games as a family for £30, through to making sure that we were putting value on those premium seats, because you were going to be seeing premium football, brilliant entertaining football, and we need to make sure that's valued in the correct way. And I think what the ticketing strategy did was enable it to be flexible enough for concessions and entry level to enjoy the game, through to people who wanted to get that sort of premium access and experience, and whether that's hospitality or sort of the best seats in the ground, they could do that. And I think, you know, there's always been this perception that if you want to sell out grounds, you have to have free tickets. We know that is absolutely not the case. So we know we've sold out the final. There are not free tickets. They're tickets that have been purchased. We know that hospitality is almost sold out, and that is because brands, rights holders, champions of women's sport understand the value and the brilliant experience they're going to have. Obviously, we still have a lot of tickets left to sell, but I think it really shows you the value that people are placing on women's football. And I think, you know, as a tournament, it's really important for us to set the standard and say this is what this sport is worth, and fans agree with us, and fans are purchasing the tickets and placing that value on the game, which is really, really exciting. So I hope get your tickets now, because they are selling fast. The fifth learning, I think, is around insight. And in fact, data and insight is probably more important in women's sport than in men's sport. I think, as Lucy alluded to earlier, men's sport is very structured. We know that with men's sport, there's a set format. They've had this format for years. They know who the audience is. There's a very clear pattern and direction of travel there. You know, not much changes. However, in women's sport, this is an evolving audience. As Lisa said, when we went on pre-sale, we weren't entirely sure what was going to happen and who was going to be purchasing. When we went on general sale, we didn't expect for 50% of those tickets to be a brand new audience. We're learning and evolving as we go. And this data and insight, which the team gets through on a dashboard daily, just enables us to be really flexible with our marketing campaign. And I think this will really come into its own as we get closer to the tournament, and we have to troubleshoot some fixtures that probably aren't selling for various reasons, whether it's the one at 8 p.m. at night and it's harder maybe for families to get to, or maybe the audience in that area are kind of rugby league fans, and actually we're saying, come over and try some women's football instead. But what that data and insight will do for us is a number of things. It will tell us who the audience are and how we go after them. And also it will give us a really, really clear idea on how it's changing. And I think this is one thing we've noticed from pre-sale, that the audience and the audience structure and what that audience looks like changes week by week. I think once we get the final stats through from general sale, which is now closed and will reopen later in May, we'll get another understanding of how that audience has evolved again. You know, we started off with women's football fans, and as Lucy said, we're emerging into a big event audience now. And I think it'll be really interesting to see where we end up post-tournament, and also sharing that data and insights, so then future women's tournaments can take that going forward and learn from that. But I would say if there's one thing you invest in as a women's tournament, it is that data. You know, everything's changing at pace, which we're seeing brilliantly, seeing week by week, and seeing all these great stats with the Six Nations selling out games. But I think we need to keep on top of that data and evolve with it. And then finally, I think women's football is creating its own path, which is really exciting. You know, we're not following the suit of the men. We don't have to copy the same path they've gone down. We don't have to copy the tournament formats. We don't have to copy how they market themselves. You know, we do have the permission and space to grow in our own way, which is really exciting because, you know, ultimately women's players and women's football is always going to be different than men's football. I don't think we need to shy away from that. You know, it's still brilliantly entertaining. It's still, you know, the quality is there, but it is a different game. It always will be slightly different. I think let's celebrate that and create a more modern game for sports fans. You know, it's really exciting where we can potentially take this. And I think one thing we found through marketing, you know, as Lucy said, everything from the ballot through to how we've created the Showtime campaign, everything's had a slightly different, fresh, younger edge to it. It just feels a bit new and a bit different. And I think women's sport, you have almost permission to create your own path and to sort of push the boundaries a bit, because men's sport is, you know, bogged down in long-term contracts and long-term formats. I think women's sport is where we can potentially evolve and change things for sport in a really good way. And just on that, on our final learning, I'll just end on the brilliant campaign film the team at Matter created. So that's the end of our chat. So thank you so much for listening to us, everybody. I hope you found that useful and insightful. We would love to hear if you have any questions, any feedback, agree or disagree with any of those points.
That was absolutely brilliant, Jenny and Lucy. Thank you so much. I mean, there are just so many questions on the back of all of that, but how exciting that we're now at a time where we can make the change for women's football, given that younger people are consuming sport in a different way, and we're much more agile and able to make those changes. I think the future actually for women's football, especially, but for all women's sport, is just really bright, isn't it? So we can make those changes so that young people get to consume it in the way that they want to. It's not about pale, stale, old men anymore, is it? It's brilliant. There are a couple of questions. I've just got one to kick off and then I will go to ask everybody, so I won't hog it. But I guess it's that question about your insights versus your ticket strategy, because actually your insights are saying actually you're finding out new things about your audiences. But is that because the ticket strategy was set that way that it attracted those audiences? Or is it that your ticket strategy was bang on and matched the audience that were coming? I guess it's which came first.
I would say that wanting to reward existing and loyal fans came first, and making sure that we took care of those existing women's fans, because they've been coming to women's football for years, you know, or even weeks, but making sure that they had that first opportunity. So I think we delivered the pre-sale for the right reasons to reward those fans, but also it gave us a test bed for learning. You know, who are these fans? We don't always have the most amazing data capture across the various formats of football being played on a week in, week out basis, from a WSL Women's Championships to lower league clubs to England games. We don't have all the data insight in one place that we can just tap into and know who these fans are. So actually the learning through that pre-sale enabled us to shape the rest of the strategy. I think we always had the ambition that we reward fans first, we'd have a ballot which really synonymous with major events to garner that wider interest, and then general sale would be the 2022 focus. And we'd almost do what we needed to do in 2022, depending on where we've got to through those first two stages. So the strategy was set with probably women's football in mind, making the most of it and rewarding those fans, but did amend, was shaped as we went along, and the learnings that we had from that pre-sale and through ballot are honestly shaping at what we do every day. We have a check-in with our data insight agency, we have all my team, we have our media agency, everybody coming in, and on a daily basis it's what happened in Sheffield yesterday, what made a difference, should we do more of it, should we stop doing something? And being that reactive and responsive is making the most of our budget, it's making the most of our effort, and it's enabling us to be really smart about what we do, because there's lots of competition out there. You know, there's many major events happening this summer, and it's brilliant that they are, but sometimes we're after the same fans, and there's also ongoing regular football, ongoing women's sports, or you know, just the world that we live in, and you know, the environment at the moment as well. You know, it's not hot for ticket sales at the moment. People are being conservative about the money they spend, and for good reason. So that data and that insight's really helping us to be smart and to shape what we do on that regular basis.
Brilliant, thank you. There's a couple of questions which I think have sort of around the same place, so I'm just going to bring them together if that's all right, everybody. But it's a question about venues, sizes, and about using alternative cities to bring the attention to the tournament outside of the host cities as well. So a criticism of the capacity of the stadiums. Do you think largest venues that have been considered, especially as some are sold out? And why have you kept the roadshow to just the host cities as well?
Okay, that's both of those. So I guess the portfolio of stadiums is the right choice for this tournament, and it was based really on the host cities, the infrastructure, the venues that really wanted to host the Women's Euros when the bid was first submitted, and that portfolio, you know, before knowing who the teams were, we had to make those venue choices to give us the best platform for everything that we've talked about today. And having some venues sell out is brilliant. It really is, because actually the atmosphere, the fan experience, and the platform that we provide the players will be fantastic. And we really do feel that the portfolio of the smaller venues where we'll get those sellout games through to the two biggest stadiums in the country, it's representative of what we want to achieve for the tournament. And then the roadshow, so we're very much focusing our efforts on those host cities because of the host city support. So our host city working groups are set up, and they are absolutely fundamental to any success that we've achieved. So we work very closely with the host city councils, the venues, the county FAs in those cities. And we have this regional set of experts that deliver on the ground week in, week out, and enable us to be, you know, really smart in those specific regions, because they're all really different. And they are the hotbeds for where we're selling tickets and where we're seeing that growth and the focus for our legacy program. So it's twofold really. It's taking advantage of those host cities and making the most of those relationships that we have, but also making the most of those specific areas as well, in terms of both generating tickets, but also signposting to legacy opportunities which have been set up specifically in those host cities. We can give them the best possible experience.
Brilliant, thank you. I think that does, hopefully that answers your questions, Caroline and Lisa. Another one from Adriana, who says, the sellout of the new camp recently, and does that give you hope, excitement that Wembley can beat it?
It was amazing, wasn't it? So amazing to see that. And you know, I think when we saw that the ticket sales numbers, it's like, I really hope they all show up, and they did. So yeah, it absolutely gives us even more ambition. It gives us so much confidence going into the you know, final few weeks ahead of the tournament. And ticket sales for the final, you know, available tickets have already sold out. So we're really confident of that final being an absolute showcase of women's football. We've just got more work to do in the wider tournament, and to sell out all of those games, some of which are midweek, you know, some of them are 8 o'clock kickoffs. As per any tournament, there are the sellout games, and then there's the games where we have to work a little bit harder, speak to different audiences to really make the most of those opportunities.
I think what's great as well, just to add to that, we've seen obviously with the TikTok Women's Six Nations that each week we're getting sellout games for the England games, and it's just creating a trend and pattern, because people want to go to games that are record breaking. People want to be the first there to see that, experience it. You know, games that sell out will just breed more the games that sell out. I think with our ticketing data insight we've had is that if we can sell out those first few games, that's really going to have an impact on the other games in the tournament. You know, they really set the stake in the ground and really start a sort of emotion of excitement and build up. So for us, it's brilliant seeing it in other sports, because it's only going to replicate what happens in football, and hopefully that will then go on to support the Commonwealth Games, that will then go on to support the 100 when it comes back in the summer. You know, this is all good. Obviously it's brilliant for women's football, but it's brilliant for women's sport in general.
And actually the recent research, isn't it, from the Women's Sport Trust has actually backed all of that people who are new to women's sport then go on, a huge proportion of them then go on to follow other women's sports. There's a question from Sharon. She says, in addition to individuals, is there an opportunity for grassroots clubs, charities to benefit from legacy programmes or funding?
In a nutshell, yes. And especially if they're in one of our host regions. So yeah, so I've moved from a ticket perspective, we've had group opportunities, and we have our schools program as well, which is national, and clubs and communities, which is more than football clubs as well. So when I talk about clubs, it's almost any group of individuals. Will have lots of resources which will be and opportunities which will be launched in early May. But yeah, from a legacy perspective, is there anything specific? I mean, please drop me a line and I can make sure I put you in touch with the right people for specific opportunities. But yeah, the legacy program really is set up to, you know, to deliver more referees, more coaches, and more, you know, young girls playing football.
And are they easy to access, the legacy programs? I know that most of them haven't been launched yet, but are about to be.
That's the aim. So yes, everything we do should be really easy to access, depending on kind of what we want to, what specifically it is that we want to get involved in. But yeah, the legacy program is completely accessible, especially in those host cities as well, working with all those local partners to make sure that the right groups, the right individuals are automatically involved, or at least communicated with, to make sure that they know there's opportunities available.
Brilliant. Emily from West Ham United, she's saying, will there be a chance to share the insights you gained from the whole Euros campaign with the group? Working within women's football, I'm always keen to learn and share and help them grow the game. Yep,
absolutely. One of my passions is absolutely making sure that we make the most of every single event, especially those for women's sport, with others that are, you know, about to do the same. I recently had a call with one of the guys working on the World Cup out in Australia about insight and learnings from this tournament. So yeah, absolutely happy to share that with the group post tournament.
Brilliant, and I think that answers Harriet's question as well, right? Sharing insight with the WSL. I don't know if there are any more questions I might have missed in the chat, and I am really sorry if I have, but I am looking at the time and we are getting to it. I just have one more really important question. I know Russia's not coming. Can we just slip Wales in there? It'd just save everybody a lot of hassle, wouldn't it? And then we could just get them in the tournament. That'd be
wonderful.
Wouldn't it just? Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for coming and joining us today, and a huge thank you to Lucy and Jenny for all your support and for your time today. It's really brilliant. I know that if you've got any more questions that we didn't get round to, I'm sure Jenny and Lucy would be really happy to take those offline, make connections with them on LinkedIn, or I've got email connections if you want to do that. But so please do catch up. So just a huge thank you.